What's up, Inspired Vision? It's good to see you guys again. As always, it is time to learn some math. Now, what do you ask about this in the middle of the screen? Well, today, as we learn, we are going to play a clue game. Every slide or every other slide, I'm going to give you a clue about a mystery person today. Okay, let's see what's first. This is our first question, so write down this matrix in your notes. And if you have a very disorganized notebook, you can get rid of everything as long as you're happy with your notebook check that I've already given you. Alright, so in our first row we have 1107. Second row, 0104. Third row, 001, -2. The variable that is already solved, this is important, is this row, because we want to have the form in reduced echelon form. So we want our matrix to look like this. If it looks like this, which is what our third row looks like, the number that's right after it, that is our answer column. So that means Z, here, let's put it right here. Z is equal to -2. Okay, hopefully that makes sense for everybody. Next question. It says, what number needs to change? Well, since this is always my first step to make that 1, my second step is to make both of these 0. Third step is to make this 1. All of this is already done. Fourth step to make this 0. Fifth step to make this 1. We are all the way down to our 6th step, like we did yesterday. This is my 6th step to make this a 0. In order to make that a 0, let me clear this to make this a little bit easier. We need to multiply by its opposite. So that means we're going to multiply this row by -1, and then we're going to add it to this. So that means row 2 gets multiplied by -1, and then we add it together with row 1. So that means everything in row 2 gets multiplied by -1, and then we add it. So here's how it changes. We still have 0 times -1, that's still 0 plus 1. Then we have -1 plus 1. That turns into a 0. 0 times -1, that stays as 0. Then this becomes -4 plus 7. That becomes a +3. This is good. This is what we want. This is just like up here. That means we have our answer for x. And then below, this stays the same, because this is the only change we did right here, that operation. If this doesn't make sense, make sure I pause and re-explain this question for you guys. Okay? Our first clue to figuring out our mystery person is me telling you that this person does not play video games. They do not have time for video games. They're too busy with social media. Okay, next question. All right, we have another matrix. Write this down. 1, 2, -3, 2, 0, -9, 9, -6, 7, 14, -21, 13. Alright, this time I gave you a little bit more things to look for. So our first step is to make sure we have a 1 right here. Our first step is good. Our second step is to make sure underneath that 1 we have zeros. This 7 is not a 0. So since this 7 is not a 0, the number that needs to change is this 7. The way to make that 7 change is to think about its opposite. Its opposite is -7. So we're going to take this 1 and multiply by -7 and then add it together with this 7. So here's what that looks like. We're going to take row 1, multiply it by -7, and then add it together with everything in row 3. That is our third step. Okay, so that means everything and the first row gets multiplied by -7. And then we're going to add it each time to row 3. So the first one, here's what our matrix looks like. Our first row doesn't change, we're just multiplying it. Our second row doesn't change. It's our third row that changes. So 1 times -7 is -7 plus 7. Now I have a 0, which is what I wanted. Then I have 2 times -7. That's -14. Added together with this 14, what do we get? Another 0. Then -3 times -7, that's -21. Added together with this, oh sorry, -3 times -7 is +21. That makes a little bit more sense. Added together with this, and we have a 0. And then 2 times 7 is 14. Added together with this, and we have 27. Okay, now here is what I want you to notice. I want you to look for something special that just happened. This doesn't happen a lot, and we didn't talk about this yesterday because it never happened yesterday. We didn't have enough time to talk about this. Now I know what you're saying. You're saying, well, this line, I don't have this line over here. That is something that happened that was special, but that's not what I'm talking about because it really means the same thing. We don't have to draw the line each time because this column, that means our answers. These columns, or these 3 columns, those are our coefficients. That's not what I'm talking about. What I'm talking about that's special is this. What happened was when I went to change my row, my z completely canceled out. When you get, and you'll see it on your homework, when you get one of your rows to completely cancel out, then we can't have 0z equal to 27. The only thing we could have is if that was a 0. That's the only thing we could technically have. But since it says 0z is 27, we can't have this. So that means we have no solution for our current matrix. We either have, and I'll teach you this later, but for right now, just worry about no solution. We either have duplicating lines or parallels. Something's going on very weird in the matrix. Okay, moving on to the next slide. Oh, I forgot about our clue. Our second clue is our mystery person loves shampoo and conditioner, and they tend to use a lot of it. So a lot of shampoo, a lot of conditioner, and they don't like video games. I don't know, could be anybody. Next slide. Okay, so we have another matrix. We need to know what numbers need to change. We want reduced echelon form, so as you're writing this down, keep in mind we want a matrix to look like this. This is what reduced echelon form looks like. Where over here we have our answers. I'm just putting the numbered symbol, the hashtag symbol to look, that just means any of our answers. Okay, so this one is already done. The zeros already done. That's step 2. This is step 1. Step 3, this is already done. Step 4, this is already done. Step 5, this is already done. So the number that needs to change, numbers that needs to change, is starting with this. The way to make that 2 change is to take my row that has the 1 and multiply by the opposite of 2. So I'm going to multiply this by -2, which means everything in this row needs to get multiplied by -2. And here's how I write it. I say row 2 gets multiplied by -2. And then we add that together with row 1. Okay? So that means we have my first row changing. My second row, my third row do not change. We definitely don't want our third row to change because it already has an answer. But my first row, 0 times -2 plus 1 should be -1. 1 times -2 plus 2. Oh, I'm sorry, I made another mistake. 0 times -2 is 0. 0 plus 1 is still 1. The reason why I know I made a mistake is because we have to have our matrix look like this. So I'm actually glad I did that, because anytime you get something that's a little bit off of looking like this, you know you did something wrong. Okay, back to this. 1 times -2 is -2. -2 plus 2 is 0. 11 times -2 is -22. -22 plus -5 or -5 is -27. 21 times -2 is -42. -42 minus 9 is -51. Okay, everybody caught up? Okay, now we have everything we need except for this spot. We need that to be 0 and this 11, that to be 0. So we're going to do both of these at the same time. Or if you want to think about doing them separately, that's fine. The way I'm going to change row 1 first. The way I'm going to change row 1 is take the row that has a 1 in it and multiply by its opposite. So we want to multiply by positive 27. So that means everything in this row gets multiplied by positive 27. Here's how I write that. I say row 3 gets multiplied by positive 27, and then we add it to row 1. So 0 times 27 plus 1, that's 1. 0 times 27 plus 0, 0. 1 times 27 plus -27, 0. 2 times 27 plus -51 is positive 3. Okay, that's the first change. I also need to change this 11 like I talked about, and I'm going to do this in a different color. I'm going to do it in purple. So the way to change this 11 is also take row 3 and multiply everything by its opposite. So -11. Okay, the way I'm going to say that is -11 times R3 plus row 2. So 0 times -11 plus 0, 0. 0 times -11 plus 1 is 1. 1 times -11 is -11 plus 11, 0. 2 times -11 is -22. -22 plus 21 is -1. Okay, my third row never changed here. We were just using it to change our other two rows. Okay, so we had to do two big changes here. Now we have reduced echelon form, and now we can say x is 3, y is -1, and z is 2. Hopefully that made sense. All right, I'm going to teach you something brand new. The thing that I'm teaching you brand new is how to multiply matrices. It is very, very easy. So this is the reason why I think you can handle something new. If you wanted to, actually, I do want you to write this down in your notes at the bottom of the screen. Okay? So all we have to do is, if we have a number outside the matrix, let's call this, like, let's say this matrix is called A, because you're going to see this notation. So if they want us to multiply 2 times that matrix, anything with a capital letter is a matrix, then you just take each individual spot and multiply by 2. Okay, ready to see this as a homework problem? Here we go. All right, so we have A. We have -3, 1, -4, and -7. And we have B. B is 5, 2, 6, and 1. We got a lot of things going on here. The first step we need to do is this. If you want to rewrite this out so you can see it a little clearer, it's helpful. Because this is the first thing I need to do. Okay, so I need to multiply -3 times each one of these. So think distributive property to each one of these numbers. Okay, so -3 times -3 is 9. Then I have 12. Then -3. And then positive 21. This is my new matrix for A. I also have minus 3b. Let me do that in a different color. So minus 3 times b. That's what that means when you have a number right next to your matrix. Okay, so if I'm multiplying by a negative, it's really plus a negative. So we're going to add these together after I finish multiplying. And I get -15, -18, -6, and -3. All right. Now, the previous slide did not talk about adding, but we can add matrices with the same number of rows and columns. So we can add these together. So what I'm going to add is 9 plus -15. That gives me -6. Then 12 plus -18. That also gives me -6. Then -3 plus -6 gives me -9. And then 21 plus -3, that gives me 18. This is the final answer to this question. Hopefully that makes sense. If not, please ask me to pause and I can explain another problem. Okay, we have another clue. Our third clue to figure out our mystery person is their obsession with Taylor Swift. So maybe we can connect the clues. Next question. Before I show you the next question, I'm going to show you something new. This is multiplying a matrix by another matrix. The most important rule for multiplying a matrix by another matrix is you have to count the number of rows in your first matrix. They have to be the same as the number of columns in the second matrix. So they don't have to look exactly alike. As long as I have 2 rows in my first column, then, or sorry, in my first matrix, then I need to have 2 columns in my second matrix. Now, if that's the case, then you're going to multiply like this. You're going to take 1 times 7, then add 2 plus 9, then add 3 times 11. Okay, it looks really confusing at first, but it's not too bad. Just remember, multiplication has a different rule than addition. And if I wanted to do this second column to get this number, then I would take this row again, since it's in the first row, and then multiply by this column. So this number right here would be 1 times 8 plus 2 times 10 plus 3 times 12. You get that answer, and then you have your second one. And then here, you take this row and you multiply by your first column. And then here, you take this row and multiply by your second column. We're going to get more practice with this. Okay, hopefully you got everything on this page, or at least the most important stuff, and let's put this to practice. Okay, so our example here, we have A is, and this looks weird, we haven't seen a matrix like this, it just has one column. So it has -1, 1, -1. And then we have B, we only have one row, 1, -6, 0. They want to find this. This AB means you need to multiply. Okay, so in order to multiply, like I said, you have to count the number of rows and make sure that matches up with the number of columns. So the number of rows we have here is 3. The number of columns we have here is 3. Okay? So that means we can do this. It would not be not possible. We can do this. So that means we're going to do -1 times 1 plus 1 times -6 plus -1 times 0. And since that's the only thing we have, that's it. That's all we can do when we multiply these together. So we would only have one number here. So -1 times 1 is -1, sorry. And then this would be -6 plus a -6, the same thing as -6 plus 0, be -7 as your answer. Okay, the reason why I don't have a matrix like this is because we're multiplying them together. They're going to reduce down. So I would have to have another column in order to get another answer in my matrix. Okay, next question. Oh, before we do next question, look what we have. We have cheesecake. This is our next clue. So our person likes Taylor Swift and cheesecake and uses a lot of shampoo and conditioner and does not play video games. Who could that be? All right, next question. Next question, we have another matrix. Okay, after you finish writing this down, since this says AB and that means to multiply, our first step here when we do multiply is to count the number of rows and to count the number of columns. We have 2 rows and 2 columns. Since we have 2 rows and 2 columns, then we can do this question. So the first step we're going to do is multiply this row times this column. Okay, so and that's going to be this answer right here. So 0 times 1 plus -4 times 0 plus 1 times -4. These all cancel. So your answer here is what number? Your answer is -4. Then we need to figure out this answer. This answer, we're going to take the same row and multiply by this column. So that's 0 times 7 plus -4 times 1 plus 1 times -1. 0 times 7 cancels. -4 times 1 is -4 plus -1. What is your answer here? You should have -5. Okay, now I'm going to change colors so you can see what's going on for the next step. To get your next answers for this one, you need to take this row, since it's on the bottom, times this column. So that's -3 times 1 plus -1 times 0 plus 0 times -4. What do you get? You should have that answer as -3. Finally, our last one, we take the same row and multiply by our second column. So that's -3 times 7 plus -1 times 1 plus 0 times -1. What do you get? You should have -22. All right, hopefully you found that easy. Our next clue is take a look at this Disney character. This Disney character has very long hair and is obsessed with her hair. Maybe that helps you figure out who we are talking about today. Okay, our next question. We have another multiplying matrix. That is our goal for today, is to learn how to multiply matrices. When we multiply matrices, because this stands for multiply, make sure you count the number of rows and the number of columns. Okay, the number of rows here is 3. The number of columns here is 3. So we're good. Now, be very careful. With this question, B comes first. So when we do this question, you actually have to reorder this to look like this. Okay, now, I am also going to teach you a trick. If you open up your calculator and hit the matrix key is the second x to the -1 key. Then, after you hit second x to the -1, you should see names, math, and edit. I want you to go arrow over twice to edit. And this is our B. So we got to remember that this is our B. So go down to B and tell the calculator that you have a 3 by 3 matrix. And then type in those numbers. So 2, -1, 5, 4, 2, -4, -5, -3. And you're hitting enter after each one. And 2. After you have B, hit second x -1 again, so we go back to matrix, hit edit again, and this time hit edit on A, and tell the calculator you have a 3 by 3 matrix. So you're hitting enter each time, and then you type in this. Hitting enter each time you type in a number. Okay, so after you have both matrices in the calculator, and you can tell by if you hit your matrix again, you have something for A and something for B. Here's what I need you to do next. I need you to quit out of everything, so hit second mode, which is your quit, which gets you out of the matrix category. And then I need you to hit go again to matrix and hit enter on A. If you hit enter on A after you go back to second matrix key, you should see your matrix. Okay, so that's just to let you know that it's programmed. But our question is this. It's BA. So again hit second x negative 1, but this time hit enter on B, and then do it again with A right next to it, because the calculator will know that that means multiply. So this is what I need to see in your calculator before you get the answer. So you had to hit enter here, and then you had to do second x negative 1 to get back to the matrix to get to, and hit enter on A. If you type all of this in correctly, you have your answer. And maybe this is a little bit easier to get your answer other than writing it all out with columns. Or you could do it by hand. I just wanted to show you how to do it by calculator and by hand. I think the smaller matrices are easier to do by hand. The bigger matrices are easier to do in the calculator. Okay? If you did not get this, please pause. I will help you guys out. Alright, if you haven't figured out who we're talking about yet, maybe this character from Peter Pan will help. Our person of guest is Wendy. So hopefully you have learned a little bit of clues about Wendy today. Alright, I am going to stop the video. That is enough for today. Until tomorrow.